Hello and welcome to Writing Thoughts. My name is Matthew Dewey and this is a new series I am creating on my channel where I give more informal information on certain topics pertaining to writing. So I'll be giving some of my opinions, but it's mainly to promote discussion. So if you have any thoughts on these topics, be sure to let me know in the comments below and let everyone else know what your thoughts are, what experiences you have with these topics. And while I will be choosing most of these topics myself, should you have any suggestions or questions that fit this informal series, let me know in the comments as well. You can even read this blog post on my website, thepensleuth.com. There's links to all that in the description below, as well as links to a bunch of other goodies if you're interested. With that said, let's talk about the very first topic. In this episode, I want to discuss the ambiguous endings in science fiction. I know that science fiction isn't the only genre to use these either-or endings, but I have noticed it to be pretty commonplace in literature, movies, and series when it comes to science fiction. There have been very few post-apocalyptic adventures, space voyages, and cyberpunk-themed stories I've read that did not have an unsatisfying, ambiguous ending. I understand that the primary use of the ambiguous ending is to promote thought on what has happened throughout the story, particularly the conclusions made in the last quarter of the novel. If such speculative fiction was to end with a definitive ending, kind of defeats the point. It's very easy to accept that ending as the last word and spare little to no thought on the questions otherwise. Sometimes the ambiguous ending is there to provide a level of discomfort and dissatisfaction because it reads like that throughout the story. And other times, although rarely, it's because the author themselves have trouble deciding how they want to end the novel. So they construct an ending where it is up to the reader to decide. As this is an opinion-based series, here's my opinion on ambiguous endings. I don't care for them. I've come to expect them at the end of science fiction, unless the story is a really simple one. These endings no longer surprise me, which is one thing, but they no longer elicit much thought either. The reason is that I have already established so many opinions about the story by the end. The conclusion leaves me mostly unsatisfied, not wondering about the metaphorical meaning behind it all, or even a state of slight existential angst. Now, this feeling of discomfort is perfectly fine if the topics discussed are uncomfortable or horrific. Yet, ambiguous endings are so commonplace in science fiction that even the most basic stories might have an ambiguous ending. In these moments, it feels like I've read an incomplete story, not a good one. I'm not talking about this topic in the hopes I shake things up in the science fiction writing community, nor do I speak out of anger from a recent novel I read, but because of my own opinion on the kinds of stories and endings I enjoy reading. Of the hundreds of short stories I've written as well, I'm sure a few of them have ambiguous endings. But probably the most common one is a twist ending. With an ambiguous ending, a lot of the story gets called into question, and you try to decide for yourself what is right or wrong when you imagine what happens in a chapter later. With a twist ending, everything you read up until the end turns out to be wrong, or there was some greater story beneath it all, but the ending is there. There isn't any question about what comes after in the sense of finding an explanation for what just happened. It is explained, it happened, the end. I know that sometimes the true ending is revealed in a sequel, but I think those endings are more like cliffhangers than ambiguous endings. I have to know that the ending is the ending before I count it as ambiguous. Even then, I might seek out a true ending online. Perhaps there is a draft out there which has a definitive ending, or some record of the author openly stating the true ending. When it comes to TV, there is a greater chance of finding out the answer, as there are a lot of people involved, and plenty of interviews where hints and clues are given. Yet it is always the authors out there who are the most elusive when it comes to giving a simple answer. Most likely, such an answer will never be given. Anyway, my final thoughts on the topic. At the end of the day, I will still read science fiction stories even if I know beforehand that it has an ambiguous ending, one that will leave me unsatisfied and annoyed for a few hours. It's not because I feel the writing is bad, because if it was, I would most likely stop reading after chapter 2. It's because I feel the story would have been a level better had there been an ending, good or bad or in between. I don't think I'll ever write such an ending when it comes to my novels. I am so simple-minded when it comes to my own stories that an ambiguous ending is not within my realm of thought when writing. Also, after spending months on a novel, I like to feel that I have finished it. While many stories with either-or endings out there do feel finished, when I'm working on my own project, I need to have a definitive ending. If anything, I want to be left with the feeling that the story has ended well, and I have to stop myself from taking it further. No doubt that is a feeling many writers desire. And now, having heard my thoughts on the topic, what are yours? Do you enjoy ambiguous endings or not? Do you feel too many science fiction novels use these endings, or not enough? And what is your favorite ambiguous ending in literature or film? Let me know in the comments below, and also leave any questions or future topics you have in mind. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and as always, good day, good night, and happy writing.